Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we are covering The Boy in the Box. Over 66 years, this little 4-year-old boy was found in a box. Until now, they have finally identified who that boy was. 66 years. They never knew who it was. And DNA is what helped solve this disturbed mystery. Now, sure, we may have an idea of who's responsible for this death. Are they still alive? This is over 66 years. And so let's dive into what we know surrounding this case. New forensic technology provided the breakthrough in this decades-old cold case. More than 6 decades after the badly bruised body of a young boy was found in a cardboard box in Philadelphia's Fox Chase section, police on December 8th announced the long-sought identity of the boy, finally naming America's unknown child and providing some closure in what police say is one of the city's most enduring unsolved homicides. And long known as the boy in the box, Joseph Augustus Zarelli was finally identified. And this little boy was only 4 years old when he was found in a bassinet box in the rural Northeast Philadelphia field in February of 1957. That was according to police. They say that he likely died from blunt force trauma, and this was according to Philadelphia police homicide captain Jason Smith. For decades, investigators tried to uncover Zarelli's mysterious identity with little luck, canvassing the city with flyers of his face, scouring local orphanages, and even distributing pictures of the boy's clothed body posed in a chair in hopes of jogging someone's memory. But new forensic genealogy technology provided a breakthrough. And so, after exhuming the boy's remains in 2019 to extract new DNA, investigators were able to use modern forensic genetic genealogy methods to locate and contact possible relatives on the boy's mother's side. From there, Smith said, detectives uncovered the identity of Zarelli's birth mother, using that information to obtain the family's birth records. They pulled 3 birth certificates belonging to the family, 2 for the boy's siblings and 1 for a name they had never before seen. Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born January 13th, 1953. The birth certificate, Smith said, led detectives to relatives of the boy's father, and additional genealogy testing confirmed the father's identity. Now, both parents of the boy are deceased, Smith said, declining to elaborate on where Zarelli's living family members reside out of respect to them and their parents. Now, while Smith said that investigators have their suspicions as to who may be responsible for Zarelli's death, the case remains an active criminal investigation. A missing persons report was never filed for the boy, according to the police. The extraordinary announcement, Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw said, only closes one chapter in the little boy's story while opening up a new one as police now investigate who may have been responsible for the boy's death. If it's not the parents, I don't know who could possibly be responsible. In his very short life, it was apparent that the child experienced horrors that no one should ever be subjected to. This was a statement from Miss Outlaw, the chief. And so she said, when people think about the boy in the box, a profound sadness is felt. Not just because the child was murdered, but because his entire identity and his rightful claim to his own existence was taken away. Now, the boy in the box, who is now identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli, after 65 years, you can see the box here that he was found in. And so, Philadelphia Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw, I said chief wrong. Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw announced during a press conference that they finally were able to identify him. Zarelli lived from 1953 to 1957, officials said. Outlaw said new science and technology was instrumental in the decades-long breakthrough and noted it is still an active and open homicide investigation. Police say that the boy in the box, this is one of Philadelphia's oldest unsolved homicide. The young boy's body was found along then rural Susquehanna Road in Fox Chase on February 25th, 1957. The nude body was wrapped in a cheap flannel blanket in a box for a JCPenney company bassinet. The boy appeared to be 4 to 6 years old. They could not really tell at that very time. His blonde hair had been cut short in a crude fashion with clumps of hair still on his body. The back of his head had been smashed in. He was face up in the box, which was stamped fragile. A major investigation commenced. Now, Police Commissioner Thomas J. Gibbons, he approved the citywide distribution of posters with the boy's face. News of the murder case and a plea to help solve it was literally hand-delivered to nearly every household in Philadelphia in the form of copies of the poster inserted with gas bills. They were doing everything they can to identify the young boy. The case was re-examined over the decades and it was the subject of numerous media reports. The unknown boy's body was exhumed from his pauper's grave for a DNA test, which proved fruitless at the time, and was reburied at Ivy Hill Cemetery in 1998. Police said the case remains one of Philadelphia's oldest unsolved homicide. And so after nearly 66 years, thanks to DNA advances, Philly's boy in the box has been named Joseph. Haunting images of the child victim appeared in liquor stores and were slipped into Philadelphia Gasworks bills over and over. They spoke to a front page crime so odious that it elbowed aside news accounts of the Cold War and the intensifying international tensions. As many as 25,000 circulars were sent to police departments across the country. Investigators vetted scores of false leads and at one point poured through more than 11,000 photos of newly arrived refugees in an effort to identify the boy found in a JCPenney bassinet box in the weeds and shrubs of Fox Chase. And finally, nearly 66 years later, after the dead body was discovered on an unusually balmy February morning in 1957, police on Thursday, December 8th, officially lifted the veil of anonymity, man, I'm struggling, from the child who had been known only as the boy in the box. With the aid of remarkable advances in DNA analysis and a team of international experts, he was identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli, who had just turned 4 years old when he was killed. Police said they were withholding information about surviving family members, citing privacy concerns. And so, how did DNA sleuths identify the boy in the box after 6 long decades of trying to figure it out? Genetic databases can hold the clues to solving decades old cold cases, such as the boy in the box, the 4-year-old identified by police finally as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. But it takes more than a few computer keystrokes to trace the family tree of a child who died in 1957, genealogist Colleen M. Fitzpatrick said at the police news conference. She said, "We've solved cases in 2 hours, and we've solved cases in 3 years. Investigators were hindered by a series of obstacles in identifying the boy who died when DNA science was in its infancy. Chief among those challenges, his DNA samples were incomplete and degraded after all these years. Yet, even after researchers filled in the gaps as best they could, entering his DNA into a database was just the first step," said Fitzpatrick, president of Identifinders International, a Fountain Valley, California forensic genealogy company enlisted by the police for help in this cold case. It was nearly Christmas in 2017. Justin Thomas was doing some holiday shopping on Amazon when he saw a deal of the day for and decided to buy a DNA activation kit for his then girlfriend as a gift. But soon after the kit came in the mail, they broke up, and Thomas figured, why not try it on himself? After taking the test, Thomas said he learned a little bit about his family's lineage. Many of his distant relatives hailed from Italy. He didn't think much about it, at the time, he said. Then last year, while he was at work, Thomas said he got a random phone call from a woman who identified herself as Misty Gillis, a forensic genealogist and cold case liaison with Identifinders International. She said he was a match to a cold case in Philadelphia, but she needed more DNA to crack the case. So then Thomas calls his mom, who agreed to provide a sample. He said, "I walked my mom through it." Now, Thomas, he's a 40-year-old engineer who lives in Northeast Pennsylvania. Again, not far from Philadelphia. On Thursday, December 8th, Thomas said his sister texted him to say that Philadelphia police had just released the name of the boy in the box, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Thomas said that his sister wrote to him, "I feel sick." And Thomas said, "I saw the name Zarelli and my mouth kind of hit the floor." Thomas said he recognized the close family name. Thomas said his family believes that the boy is likely a first cousin to his mom. The last name of his mom's uncle is Zarelli. His grandmother's brother is a Zarelli. The Zarelli family lived in West Philadelphia before moving to Delaware County, he shared. Thomas, who is married with 3-year-old twin girls, said he was stunned and heartbroken after reading more about the boy and the horrific injuries he sustained. And he said, "Now that I have 2 young girls and seeing his pictures and hearing the story, I'm really upset about it." That's what he shared. "It strikes home. It's horrible. I can't imagine." He said he was still processing the revelation. "I want to talk to everyone in my family to try to understand." As for his hand in cracking the nearly 66-year-old case, Thomas said, "I'm glad to be part of the puzzle and helping them solve it. It's good to get some closure, and I guess the next step would be to try to figure out the wrongdoing." Now, how did the artist's rendering of Joseph Augustus Zarelli, how was this created? When Philadelphia police revealed the identity of the formerly unknown Joseph August Zarelli, they featured an artist's rendering of the boy that was not well known compared to other images used for decades to represent the victim, then called the boy in the box. The rendering used today, which looks like a high quality pencil drawing and stands out because of the boy's big and bright eyes, was actually created in 2016 by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Colin McNally, a supervisor of the organization's forensic imaging unit, he described the process in an emailed statement. He said, "Each day, my team works to age progress missing children and create images of unidentified deceased children." And he said, in 2016, the NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Forensic Imaging Unit created a 2D facial reconstruction image of the unknown boy from Philadelphia who has now been identified as Joseph August Zarelli, McNally said. The image was created from autopsy photos and through the use of Adobe Photoshop, through a process of photocompositing, digital painting, and rendering. The final image is a result of art and the science of knowing facial structures of children at different age levels, different ages, McNally said. In total, the process to create the final image shown to the public takes approximately 8 to 10 hours. Since beginning the program, our team has created images for over 600 unidentified deceased children, McNally said. And one person, the author of the book, The Boy in the Box, he shared, "I'm stunned today. I just wanted to know before I died." Jim Hoffman, a teacher from Apple Valley, California, traveled to Philadelphia for the 50th anniversary of Joseph's recovery for research. He wrote the book, The Boy in the Box, America's Unknown Child, in 2012, and said he thinks of the case daily. "I'm stunned today," he said, from California. "But mostly, I'm grateful. I just wanted to know before I died." Hoffman, who's 58 years old, said he developed close relationships with many of the late investigators who kept Joseph's story alive. Thursday's news, he said, was a tribute to them. They're the real heroes. And so, of course, police hope this new technology will help solve more homicide cases. The breakthrough identification in the nearly 66-year-old boy in the box cold case, this is an illustrious illustration of advances in forensic technology that investigators said that they hope will aid in many more homicide cases across the city. This brand new technology dates back to 2017, said Colleen Fitzpatrick. She's the president of the Identifinders International Genealogy Group. She said, "We've solved cases in 2 hours and we've solved them in 3 years, as I shared earlier." And, she said, as the databases grow and our tools develop, we go forward with the technology. There's going to be a lot more, and it's going to be a lot more quickly. Every case we saw, we learned something from that, pays forward to the next one. So we look forward to a lot more success stories. Calling the boy in the box case one of the most challenging of my whole career, Fitzpatrick said, it took her and a fellow genealogist 2.5 years to make the boy's decades-old DNA usable, collaborating with experts from several countries. Now, Fitzpatrick said she and her co-workers worked day and night to get that boy his identity back. Because after all, what can we hope for in life and death but to be buried under a stone carrying our own name? If the technology used to uncover Joseph August Zarelli's identity was available 20 years ago, finding the person responsible before the boy's death would have been a different story, said Philadelphia Police Homicide Captain Jason Smith, calling this decades old investigation an uphill battle. Now, this case marks the first identification made, but definitely not the last, in a new partnership between the city's medical examiner's office and police detectives, said Ryan Gallagher. He is the criminalistics manager of the Philadelphia Police Department's Forensic Science Office. And the group meets weekly, he said, to determine which cases may benefit from the technology to identify unknown human remains or suspects in criminal cases. And so the group is working on testing in dozens of cases from 1957 to 2022, he said. Our goal for the project is that there will never be another unidentified homicide victim in the city of Philadelphia. The victims of a homicide deserve, and their families deserve, no less. There's still many other unsolved cases, said Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw. I would ask that everyone not lose hope, but recognize that this is something breaking for us and that we are hoping to use it moving forward so that we can continue to improve not only how we provide service, but to improve the quality of our investigations. And, this has been a haunting case, especially for one late investigator, for decades. Once a year, or sometimes more, Remington Bristow would drive to the potter's field with some flowers and toys and kneel by grave 191. He'd dust off the snow around the holidays and pull out the weeds in the summer. Then he'd pause in silence to honor the nameless boy who never left his thoughts. Bristow, a longtime investigator with the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office, and some police investigators pitched in to buy a headstone that read, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy. Someday, somebody will claim him," Bristow told the Inquirer in 1971. As news spread through Facebook groups last week that investigators may have finally uncovered the identity of the boy in the box, many thought of Bristow, who died in 1993, without the answers he so desperately sought. He was truly haunted by that case, said Mark Kimmelheim, Bristow's grandson. Throughout his life, he returned to it again and again. And this is what I mean. They were doing everything. They even had a sign up where the boy was found. And you can see here, America's Unknown Child. And this is one of the tragic cases, 4 years old. As we know, I'm not 66 years old. I'm not 70, obviously. So this has not been in front of me. I've heard of the boy in the box as an unsolved case. But you can see, even by this sign here, February 26, 1957, police officer Elmar Palmer. It's hard to kind of read it. It's very blurry in this particular case. But you can see that they put this up. He is now called America's Unknown Child. Well, now we have a name for you, Joseph. Rest in peace, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Taken from this world way too soon. They did everything they can to try to find who this little boy was. They had different composite sketches. They did all that they could for this little boy. Taken from this world way too soon. And here's this is a sad case, but now they can actually get rid of "bless this unknown boy" and put "bless Joseph Augustus Zarelli." Taken from this world way too soon. Over the years, many people kept going to this grave and paying their respect. And now we can pay our respects. You can see America's unknown child here. But now they're going to replace that with his actual name. This is obviously sad. And we can speculate who did this. I mean, if he was never missing, it has to be the parents. If he was never reported missing, it has to be the parents. Like, why would they do this? You know? And if so, other people knew about this. Other people knew about this. But you're talking about over 6 decades ago. Very few would be alive today because unless they were born like me way after and someone actually confessed and shared this with them, this is going to be hard to hold anyone accountable. But the flip side is that this little boy can finally have a name to him. This little boy can finally have a resting place that people can actually know who they're paying their services. And anyone, just like Thomas, who helped crack this case through genealogy, he can go pay his respects because this was family to him that he never got a chance to even know about. Come to find out that he might know the parents of this child. He might know through different sources the parents of this child. So, my friends, if you see something, say something. Somebody knew about this. It's hard to keep this under wraps all of your life. We just recently had a discovery of a suitcase of a little boy in a Vegas suitcase who was found, and it was a while before they identified the little boy, and then they were able to identify the mother of the little boy. And truth is, these type of things, unfortunately, they happen. But if you know something, say something. Do not cover up for anyone. It's not worth it. I mean, can your conscience really live with that? My friends, the whole purpose of this channel is to be a voice for these victims. Rest in peace, little Joseph Augustus Zarelli, taken from this world way too soon. My friends, if this is the type of content you like to follow, hit that subscribe button. That way you get notified whenever click on that notification bell. That way you get notified whenever I do upload any content. Because at the end of the day, I just want to be a voice for these victims. I want to keep you aware, alert. I want to keep you conscious of what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in so that we can speak up and speak out. Because children just like this, they need a voice for them. Especially little boy like this who was taken from this world way too soon and no one spoke up. It took DNA advancement to find out who he was. This is tragic. Very tragic. It's not like he just disappeared. No one ever knew what happened. Someone actually knew what happened to this boy, and they never spoke up. His mom and dad, who never reported him missing, obviously knew something. But they're deceased, so they won't be able to be held accountable for this. This is still a developing investigation. If we do find out that anyone is responsible, or we do have any breaks in this case, I will definitely keep you updated. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you do get to stay updated. I'm Manny Rodriguez. My friends, thank you for tuning in. At the end of the day, I just want to be a voice for the victims. So thank you for being a part of this. I look forward to serving you and the victims again. Peace. Have a great day, my friends.